Did you see that? Did you get the sign? This webinar is being recorded.
It says recording.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cultural Humility webinar series created by the Georgia Rim Mental Health Alliance. The Mental Health Alliance is a collaborative that aims to expand mental health services for refugees and migrants across Georgia. We created this series to promote conversation and inform our mental health professionals and staff. It's important to understand, of course, that cultural humility is a lifelong process of self-reflection, but a big step in this journey is a willingness to actively listen and learn from each other's life experiences. So by being here today, you're all taking that really important step. Today, we are focusing on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the next slide. Next slide, Doctor. There we go. Okay. So the DRC is located in Central Africa along the equator. It shares a border with 9 other countries, including the Republic of the Congo, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania, among others. The population of DRC is expected to exceed 100 million by the end of this year. The capital and largest city is Kinshasa, which sits along the Congo River. It's a really vibrant and busy city and the epicenter of art and music in the DRC. The DRC has a particularly rich musical legacy. African jazz was born there, which spread an influence all over the world. Their most influential musical figure was Papa Wendo, who is considered as one of the fathers of modern African music. His musical influence brought Congolese rumba to mainstream fame worldwide. Another really interesting aspect of the DRC is that it holds 50% of the global cobalt reserves. Cobalt is used in the manufacturing of rechargeable batteries and other electronic devices. However, this richness in cobalt and industrial and gem quality diamonds has paved the way for a history of human rights abuses. The legacy of cobalt and diamonds in the DRC is one that is full of hardship, significant environmental impacts, exploitation, child labor, and blood. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, so the next 2 slides are a timeline that highlights some events that have led to the current crisis. It's really important to note that the origins of conflict in the DRC are complex. They're a result of a very long history of colonization, political and private interests and exploitation, ethnic intolerance, and war over natural resources. I created this timeline to explain the origins of some of the most pressing issues of today, like the M23 rebel group, but it in no way encompasses the many, many intricacies of the conflict and its history. The timeline begins with the Rwandan genocide in 1994. It had a very lasting impact on the recurrent tensions between the 2 countries. Many Tutsi and Hutu refugees fled the violence in Rwanda into what was then still called Zaire. But among those refugees were militant Hutus who took part in the genocide and continued their offensive on the fleeing refugees. Eventually, Rwandan forces invaded in response, and the First Congo War began. By October of '96, rebel leader Laurent Kabila had taken over leadership and renamed the country. There wasn't much of a respite, though, in the fighting, as the Second Congo War, which is also called the Great War of Africa, began in '98, with a reemergence of many of the same issues that sparked the first conflict. So this war was as much about ethnic tensions and political rivalries as it was about resources and profiteering, especially among the many militant rebel groups and private and public interests. So after the assassination of Kabila, it seemed hopeful that his son, Joseph, would bring peace after signing the Sun City Agreement, marking the end of the war. In 2006, he won the first free multi-party election in over 40 years. His hope was short-lived, however, because his presidency was marked by lingering conflict and corruption. In 2012, the M23 rebel group, also called the Congolese Revolutionary Army, invaded Goma, the large capital city of the North Kivu province of the DRC. The M23 rebel group is composed of majority ethnic Tutsi soldiers who defected, and they're named for the date of the peace accord that occurred on March 23rd between the National Congress for the Defense of the People, the CNDP, and the DRC government. Now, M23 took over Goma and displaced over 140,000 people. And the ensuing years were marked by continued attacks from rebel groups, massive, often violent political protests, especially over election fraud, and environmental disasters, including massive flooding in Kinshasa and an Ebola outbreak in 2018 that spread to over 3,000 people and killed about 2/3 of those who were infected. So now it brings us to today. Over 6.2 million people are displaced and 1 million seeking asylum. 1 in 4 faces malnutrition, and renewed attacks from the M23 rebel group in Goma have only increased food insecurity in the region and created a desperate situation for over 100,000 displaced people. The DRC is facing a calamitous hunger crisis, with over 22 million people facing starvation and food insecurity. And that number is expected to increase to 23.4 million by the end of June. I do want to note that in the discussion today, I've notably left out details on the alarming rate of conflict-driven, widespread, and systematic sexual violence and rape endured by women and children, especially in Eastern DRC. Mass rape and mutilation of women and children are currently being documented in North Kivu, and rape as a weapon of war is common among many rebel groups. These issues and their effect on the mental health of refugees and migrants deserve a focused training of their own, and the Mental Health Alliance is working towards facilitating this discussion in a future training. And these are our references. And then the next slide, Dr. O'Connor, we'll be able to present our panelists. We are honored to have 4 amazing panelists here to provide more personal insight into this crisis. They'll each be introducing themselves, and then we'll have a question and answer session. I'd first like to hand it over to Dr. Grace, who's the founder of the African Girls Hope Foundation.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Grace.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Grace Faraja Kundabantu. I am a mother of 4 beautiful girls and married to Dennis. We live here in Georgia, and we are all originally from Congo, DRC, born and raised there, and live in different regions in Congo, including Kinshasa, Likasi, and Bukavu, and Manyema. And I'm a former refugee, lived in different refugee camps before I came in the United States. And one of the places was Kenya, and the other different countries in Africa. So I am also the founder of African Girls Hope Foundation, and we are honored to be on this platform together with my fellow Congolese. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. Next up, we have Watema, who's a fellow GSU student, also a former panelist on here. He knows what to do. Go ahead, Watema.
Yes, my name is Watema Emmanuel, and I'm still a student at GSU, and I'm also the CAB count board member, and I'm from Sud Kivu and from Fizi. My first, my country for prayer was Tanzania. I fled in Tanzania, and it's where I spent my childhood in Tanzania and before coming in the USA. So I'm living in Claston. You know, Claston is a popular area of refugees. So I'm so happy to meet my other Congolese friend here, or Congolese compatriot here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Watema, for joining us again as a panelist. And next is Jerez. He's the Vice President of the Congolese community of Atlanta.
Indeed, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jerez, and I'm here in 2 instances. One is, of course, a member of the Congolese community in Atlanta, and the other instance is to represent the Congolese community of Atlanta president, Mr. Dede Tumba. I myself, I am from the Republic Democratic of Congo. I was born in Kinshasa, grew up in Kinshasa. My parents are originally from the region of Congo. My father relocated to the US first, and then the rest of the family followed suit afterwards. And yes, in that regard, I'm here to share my experience with the panelists, and thank you everybody for hosting us.
Thank you so much, Jerez. And last here we have Eric, who's also from Kinshasa. He's kind enough to join our panel and share his experience with us. Go ahead, Eric, and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Kabamba, and I was born in Congo and raised there. I came in this country since 2018 with my dad. he won just David lottery. Then he included me with couple of my siblings. Then I have been in this country for 5 years. I'm also a student. I was one-time student in University of Iowa. Then right now I'm living in Ohio. I'm here to share some experience with you because I was born in Congo and raised there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. Okay, now I'm gonna, Dr. O'Connor is going to moderate the Q&A sessions, and then we'll have hopefully some time for audience questions as well. Thank you so much.
First, I want to thank each of you for being willing to share your experience with us so that everyone that views this webinar can understand more about the beautiful country that you came from, the circumstances that caused you to need to leave, and for you to share with us probably maybe the lessons or recommendations that you have for people in the United States and other countries that are welcoming new arrivals from DRC, as well as helping people understand just how difficult the journey has been to come to a country that's completely different, and how hard. I know Watema is a very close friend of mine, and I've seen how hard he's had to struggle over the last, I don't even want to say how many years I've known you, Watema, because then it makes me look like I'm a very old lady. And then, you know, Eric, I have worked with Dede so much, and I just have such a strong connection and passion for my Congolese friends here. I live in Clarkston, and I'm very honored to have so many Congolese friends who are just superheroes to me. So I'm going to start with the first question, and you all can decide who would like to answer. One of the things, and actually, Dr. Grace mentioned this a little bit, everybody has a different pathway of getting here. Some people spend time in other countries. Some people have to cross multiple borders. Other people have to spend quite a lot of time in refugee camps. So I wondered if you all wanted to share a little bit about how exactly geographically you got here, and perhaps explain sometimes why it takes so long and all of the steps that you have to go through to get here.
Oh, all right, let me try it first to start. I think as you mentioned, all details of PowerPoint, I fled from Congo to Tanzania, and I was like 18 years old, and we live in the camp, Tanzania, and we lived there like, I think almost 15 years in the camp. And I think, as I said, I spent my childhood in the camp. It was something like the camp where you live and you can go out without permit from the government or host country. So the process of coming in the US was a quite long time, and there are a lot of processing, a lot of documentation stuff, and a lot of interviews for coming in the US. So I will wait, and hopefully, and I think God, I was the student among those, because the process is like to see how the cases. You have to present your case to the UNHCR office. What made you you don't like to go back to Congo? You have to tell them your reason why you not like to go to Congo. And then when you tell them and they see this case it need like a state country resettlement. So they select you and put you in resettlement, and then they look for the country where they can accept you for your cases you have. So I was lucky, and yes, US accepted my case, and I was being resettled in the US. It was 2016.
Thanks, Watema. That's exactly. So you spent quite a lot of time in a refugee camp for most of your childhood, actually, and had to cross many borders just to get to safety. So I think sometimes people often think that refugees jump on an airplane and arrive in Atlanta, and that's not usually what happens. So I wondered if anybody else wanted to share sort of the story of how they were able to get here.
Oh, yeah, let me share something with you. So my process of coming here in the United States was not, it did not even take a long time, because my dad just won David lottery. Then it takes among 4 months to get here in the United States. So I can say that the process of leaving in my country to the United States, it was kind of like 2 days. In 2 days, we we had been here directly. It didn't take a long time because it was a different process. Thank you.
I can go ahead. Yeah, mine also was almost the same as my brother Watema. I lived in different refugee camps, and my first refugee camp was in Congo Brazzaville, and where where my tribe is from. We are from the one of the minority tribe from the Banyamulenge tribe. And so when the war hit, it was very hard for some of us who did not understand, we were young, about the crisis. We didn't know what was going on. So we were moving from one place to another, looking for safety, until when we got to Kenya. And then at that point, I was able to understand and to started learning more of what was going on. But before that, although I can still remember some of these things and experiences that happened during our moving from one place to another.
So, yes, my experience was, it was, I guess, a combination because my father initially came to the US as a student through a scholarship program that the President Mobutu had at the time. After arriving here studying, after completing his education, he relocated back to the Congo. And then afterwards, he came back to the US to work. And after working for numerous years, he was able to bring, his children here, which included myself, my sister, and my older brothers. But then upon arrival to the US, the main challenge that we faced was actually obtaining residency. And throughout my teenage years, in high school, because I went to high school here, Southwest DeKalb, I feel like that process of trying to obtain documentation kind of stole I guess, my future away, because I wasn't able to have a normal childhood where, you go to high school and if you want to go to college, you get to go to college or military or anything else that you want to do. I had to wait 3 years after graduating high school in order for me to get the residency papers so that I can start the process of applying for university. I ended up going to the community college and then ended up at Georgia State University as a part of the process. So yeah, my migration situation was slightly different in that sense.
So thinking about those experiences, which were all very different and had some similarities, something, Dr. Grace, that you brought up and that Watema and I have talked about a lot is that most people don't know how big DRC is. It's a very large country. And they also don't know how diverse it is. So there are so many different languages and tribes and ethnic groups. So I wondered if you all wanted to talk a little bit about what life was like back home, about the different tribes and languages and different kind of groups that people maybe in the United States don't understand or have a knowledge of understanding how incredibly diverse the DRC is.
I can go first. Mine, so I was born and raised in Kinshasa, but my mother, she's Muluba, and my father is Bakongo. So these are two different, you know, tribes that don't necessarily marry, but they were able to marry. And, here we are today. So my experience has been mainly a combination of culture in that sense. I've been exposed to the Baluba culture and I've also been exposed to the Bakongo culture. I can speak a little bit of Congo, a little bit of Chiluba. It kind of exposed me to, those two cultures. Yeah, so life in the DRC it was I don't have too many memories, but from what I can recall, being raised by my grandmother because my father was in the US pursuing his studies, and my mother, ended up getting remarried and things like that. So it was essentially my grandparents raising us. It was a pleasant experience from what I can recall overall. Yeah, that was my experience back home.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
I can go.
Okay.
I thank God that we have a beautiful country, a very rich country, and in our country we have so many things that you can never find in any other countries. So I am originally, as I said, from the Banyamulenge community, one of the minority communities, and my father and my mother, they are both from the same tribe, but unfortunately we were not, I was not born in my village. I was born in Bukavu and grew up in Kinshasa and all other areas that I mentioned. And the beauty of Congo, we speak so many languages and we are exposed to so many different cultures, and that's the beauty of it. And my father grew he's still a pastor, a missionary who exposes us to different regions in Congo. He is one of the missionary who went to very unrich place in Manyema, where it's a Muslim area, Muslim region, where there was no Christianity. So that's where actually three of my siblings were born and grew up. We grew up there. And it was just a beauty of learning the culture, different culture, and that I was not exposed from Bukavu because that's where I was born. And then moving from one region to another was just an amazing experience. So I thank God for my country. It's although there's crisis, but I know for sure that God will put an end on it.
Watema, were you going to tell? I was going to ask each of you how many languages you speak, because always when I talk to my Congolese friends, it's like 5 on average. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little French, a little tribal language, all these different languages. Watema, and then, I'll go ahead and ask another question. Something that I don't think most people understand and that Val alluded to in the presentation is that the wars that were around the countries in Congo had such an impact on what happened to your country. So there are many people who are in Congo that are not really Congolese, and they were fleeing from other conflicts in surrounding countries. So I think it's always important for people to understand. Val did start with the Rwandan genocide. It did, it started long before that, but identifying as someone who's from a particular tribe or born in a city like Kinshasa or from a particular part of the country and has an affiliation with a particular group has been interesting for me to learn, because there are lots of people who call themselves Congolese who are not actually from DRC. And I didn't know if you guys had anything to comment on about that. And I'm a teacher, so Watema knows that I'm going to call his name and ask him to comment.
Yeah, actually, I don't have a lot of comments. As I can say, I'm from, as I said, from South Kivu, and where I grew up, because I went to my primary school, and we were told like Congo has more than 400 something tribe, and I try to understand those tribes. For me, I'm Mbembe, and this is my tribe is South Kivu is Fizi, and I can say we have other tribe behind us like Bafuleru, Mushi. Those are all tribes when I was a kid, and I understand. And as my friend said, there are some like Muluba, yes, but those some I cannot remember all of them, but some people say, oh man, we are a lot of trouble here, but some like that kind of masquerade in other trouble, like feel like they are original from Congo. But I don't know actually more detail of all about those history, because when I first came, I was like 18 years old. I didn't know much about that. So I think maybe I can read and understand exactly what's the problem, because that is the problem we still have in the Congo, especially in the east, in the eastern of Congo.
Well, like Dr. Grace said, Congo is a very wealthy nation. So there are a lot of reasons why people want to come to Congo. it has immense wealth. It's also a very beautiful place. And there are lots of reasons why there could be conflict there. I didn't know, Eric, anybody else, do you guys want to say anything about how many tribes, languages, the diversity of the country?
Yes, I can say that I'm able to speak 4 languages because I was born in the village of Congo and I raised in Kinshasa. My father is Muluba, my mother is also Muluba. Then I'm really able to speak Chuluba, I can speak Lingala, I can speak French, because in Congo, if you go to school, we used to learn only in French. That's why I'm also able to speak really good French. And also the problem with other people who maybe, as you're from to say they are not Congolese, then they just say they are Congolese. So I can say that you can be, you can be born in Congo, but raised somewhere else. As other people think that if you are Congolese, you need to speak Lingala. Not every Congolese can speak Lingala. So I think many people are Congolese, but they maybe were not raised in Congo. That's the problem. Thank you.
I think I can go ahead if the permission. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go.
Yes, thank you so much for my fellow team panelists. I think there's like I mentioned, let me just repeat again. From my tribe, where I come from in the Fizi Haut Plateau, I believe the Banyamulenge communities, as I mentioned, is one of the community that has been, I believe, highlighted as a not Congolese community as what has been going on. And I think we should be honest with on this platform, because with the discussion is what is going to bring peace, unity, and break the differences that is in between us, and refuse everything that is going on back in the country. As my fellow said, I don't know if it is Eric or I don't remember. You can be born in a country like my children who are born here in America. They are Americans full time. You are not going to call them African, right? So I was born and raised in Congo, and got an opportunity through my father's mission work to live in different regions in Congo. And I was even able to learn even many more languages of different tribes in Congo. So I think there's no way someone can call themselves Congolese and they are not, unless if they don't know their true identity. Like I believe what we should accept is that in one way or the other, the crisis that have been going on of denying one community not belonging in the country, I think that's where we have to bring out the discussion, bringing an end of those issues, because there's no way you can, if America today stand up and say everyone who is not, who was born here, and if your parents were from Africa, they were born in Africa, you have to go back to your own country. There will be a crisis right there. So I believe we have to come in that understanding that the discussion that have been going on, either scholarly or with the government or different leaders, we have to come to an understanding that the crisis is there, but we as the leader need to find a solution.
That's a perfect connection to my next question.
Yes,
So wait, hold on one second, Watama, you can go next. But what we do know, Dr. Grace, is that people from Congo are still arriving, like now, I just this weekend had an event and I saw some brand new folks, like right from DRC, who could speak no English, were like nothing, just had been here in less than a week. What recommendations do all of you have for ways that we can support new arrivals? Because there is conflict in the region. I don't think the conflict is going to be ending anytime soon. And fortunately, there are things we can do to help the people that are here do a better job of adjusting to the United States and the culture here, because it's a big change and it's very difficult. And so I think I saw maybe 5 brand new families who had just gotten here that I was able to welcome this weekend. So I think you all are all experts. So what advice would you give, one, your fellow Congolese who have just arrived, but also people in the United States who would like to offer support and help to new arrivals? Watema, you might have a lot to say about that, because you've been helping out for a long time. And we all know that language has been one of the most important ways that you can help people start their new life here. So do you guys want to give us some advice on what we can do, especially right now, to help all of the folks that are arriving from DRC almost every day?
I think the first thing, as you mentioned, language barrier, that's okay. And also I would suggest maybe those also like NGOs, so have some people, hire some people who can facilitate, or those people like language, or hide. I want to give one example in IRC. I see a lot of people like from Afghanistan, or they try to help the people there because they are from one country and they can speak one language. So maybe my recommendation can be like hiring some people from Congo who can, those people who can speak those languages, those who are as their compatriots coming with. So if we hire some people like who speak Lingala or who speak French, so those people that they are feeling comfortable when we ask them, because they found their friend or uh uh their friend, let me say that, their compatriot in that way.
I agree. I think they need to be more diverse in their hiring so that they're making sure they cover more tribal and language groups would be very helpful. Other folks, what are some recommendations or words of wisdom that you could share for either your fellow Congolese new arrivals or for communities here in the United States that are trying to help people start their lives again?
From my experience, I think, yes, of course, language, you keep going back to language, but I think building a rapport with those that are arriving is also key. Because within our community, we deal with a lot of challenges, a lot of divisions, a lot of, distinction between tribes, religion, level of education. So there's a lot of dynamic, I guess, things that took place within our community that I don't think somebody outside of the community would have a full grasp of, how to maneuver those challenges. So I think, that said, I think it really, if the intent is to help Congolese people, the Congolese people will have to be a part of that process, right? Because I think they can answer to a lot of those challenges, just having the background of where they come from. So for me, I think it comes down to that. And the other thing I would like to point out, I think we should at least put some emphasis on helping out the younger folks, like the teenagers, the high schoolers, because I think they are, the segment of the population who is, who will be largely conflicted, because we've started seeing act of violence within our community that we've never seen before, right? And I think it's because a lot of these youths, they don't recognize the environment that they are in, and so they are acting based on, this could be something that they are seeing online, seeing in the movies, and within our community, you have most of the parents that once they arrive here, they have to go work, and they don't have full understanding of how the system works here. So if the parent is not at home and the child is left on their own, you can only imagine, what they can get involved in. And I think this is the biggest challenge in our community today. We're seeing a lot of children who were supposed to end up going to college, ending up in gangs and doing activities that are detrimental for their future. So maybe placing emphasis on teenagers and younger children and trying to get them acquainted with the American system and seeing how we can help guide them in the right direction, I'll say.
Yeah, I would like to add on top of what my brother Juresa just said. Helping our young ones is very important. So one of the things that our organization has been doing is to create a program, an annual program of bringing together our youth and have a conference and discussing in different topics like integration, assimilation, culture, and empowerment in this country, and how they can integrate well in this country, and give them resources, help them to direct them on different places where they can get resources so that they are able to integrate well. So I'm glad that our president has just mentioned about the youth. It's also my passion, since we have been also doing our conferences and also helping our young ones.
Yeah, echoing what Mr. Mbal said, dealing with youth is very important because, and I think it may be difficult because a lot of parents, they're not educated and they don't care. Maybe they may because of the job, the kind of job they're doing. So it's hard time for them like staying home and try to convince their children how to live out to see in the future of US. But anyway, people have to try to convince, especially parents, to stay down and teach their kids, especially those high school, and tell them how the US it is. So I think it's gonna be a good thing for the next generation of our Congolese here.
Eric, did you want to make any comment on words of wisdom or advice?
Yeah, the only thing that I can just add to what my siblings from to say is just that many of the children are left home alone during the day, and between that time they are more exposed to the different kind of behavior. They can also be exposed to the behavior kind like gangs, you see, because they are left alone for long time. So the children always need to be under youngest supervision because of that. So if maybe the parent try to look at that one more time, maybe we will have no more, we will not have more gangs in Congo.
And I think, and another thing is, if the hosting country or NGO can do something like once they came in, try to integrate those communities, those families in other community instead of putting them in one area. That's very dangerous. That's clustering. When they come in cluster, they're gonna find the same behaviors, and they're gonna live all the same behaviors, and they will not change. If one time they came and tried to integrate in another community, I think it would be helpful for them to try to minimize those behaviors of our kids.
Yeah,
Thank you
and I
so
can.
much, Brother
Oh,
Emmanuel. Clarkson has been one of my cry to reach out to refugee agencies to reduce the number of our communities going to the same place. We are coming from Africa, and then you drop them again in the same area. There's no way they will ever integrate well, other than adding more crises there. So our recommendation, again, as my fellow said, is to share different areas, locations of where our community will integrate easily.
I think that's so fascinating. I think I love working here because I learn something new every day. And that would be something I had never thought of, and that perhaps probably resettlement agencies think they're doing people a favor by putting them in the same communities with people who speak the same languages. And then here are a bunch of experts who are saying, no, this is not really helpful. This is not necessarily the practice that is the best for our community members. I think those are some very powerful words of wisdom, and you all brought up and touched on this, the problems among youth. Another thing that we don't talk about often in other cultures and communities has been mental health. and however you want to describe it, as stress or adjustment or however, we're finding that it's so related to young people and the violence that we see, and the mental health of the parents if they have to work all the time. So I wondered if each of you had some words of wisdom or guidance for people who are trying to support the mental health of Congolese community members, how to talk about mental health in a way that would be more acceptable or recognized. Just some advice for how we can do a better job of helping people deal with the stress of having to come here to a new country and start all over.
If I can say a few words, but first of all, mental health issues in our community, it is not a topic of discussion in many of our African communities. First of all, we have that denial of accepting that mental health exists. It's a taboo. It's a cultural belief, totally from where we come from, all of us, that at least for me in my family, we never had any discussion of the mental issues, and yet in many different families it exists, and even our communities. So number one advice would be creating a platform of discussion on the mental health, that it exists, and provide resources on how we can overcome, or our people can overcome, mental health issues. Number three, it's also an educational to the healthcare providers for them to understand also our community beliefs or cultures, so that they are able to also help them or serve them. Because we have experienced different issues in the healthcare, whereby even the healthcare providers or workers who don't understand other people's cultures, and they will maltreat the patients. Yeah, so there's both educational on both sides that is needed.
Yes, if I might add to what my sister Grace has mentioned, healthcare it's necessary, right? It's necessary in our community, especially because when you think about it, right? So a lot of the refugees, if we were looking at Claxton, where we housed a lot of the refugees, they're being exposed to a lot of traumatic um, events prior to them reaching the US. But then for some reason, we think once they get to the US, that's it. They're gonna forget about what they've been exposed to, right? Like my brother just mentioned, brother Watema, he was in a refugee camp for 17 years, right? Arrived to the US, where we're gonna just say, oh, he's here now, everything is fine. All of us here know that's not how it works. People need to deal with those trauma that they have been exposed to, stress and things of that nature. And the added stress of maintaining life in the US, it's already a lot for people who've been here for a long time. And I can only imagine what it's like for somebody who's never been exposed to the system that we have here. You have to pay bills on time. You have to make sure this is taken care of, that is taken care of, and being exposed to it from an environment that did not have all of those infrastructure in place. You can only imagine how stressful that is. So I think in addition to dealing with healthcare, we should also incorporate a system in which where folks could be educated on how to adapt to these systems that we have in place here in the US, right? Even just financial education, even health education, right? Like how many times you can go to the doctor, get checked and things like that. There's a long list that I can go through of things that folks should be educated on top of mental health. But I think mental health is really it's paramount to helping the folks that are coming here from other country integrate the US as a country and become functional citizens in a way. And for my side, I'll keep emphasizing on the younger folks. I really think they have been exposed to a lot. We had a march a few weeks ago here in Atlanta for peace in the Congo, and we had kids actually from the Abembe tribe who live in Clarkson now, But when they came to the march, they were completely drunk, right? They were completely drunk and they started creating chaos. And there was there was discussion, should we call police, should we not, and this and stuff. But then we all realized that these are kids that have been exposed to some traumatic effect back home, and they have no outlet to actually, to discuss what they've been exposed to or to even deal with what they've seen as children. And so when you have instances like that, it's very telling of where people in our community, of what people in our community are going through. And mental health, I would definitely say yes to it, but how we approach mental health, it has to be dealt with um, very carefully, because we have a taboo when it comes to anything related to mental in our community. It's a big taboo. Nobody have those conversations. We only go to church, come home. If you have something to say, you go say to God and go home. We don't discuss it. So we have to be very careful how we approach it. And we can provide suggestions on how to actually, I guess, triggering those conversations sessions based on our, experience, being from the country. But yes, it's necessary. We just have to figure out how to approach mental health.
I did put in the chat. That was a very important and powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it was not easy. We have other attendees. In fact, some are my friends who are providing mental health in the community. But I just want to make sure you all feel comfortable putting some questions in the Q&A or in the chat if you have questions for our panelists. So I just wanted to put that reminder out in our last few minutes together. But I was going to see if Eric and Watema had anything to say or comment. Watema's studying public health. If you all had any comment on addressing mental health issues in the community.
Yes.
Yes, I think the only thing that I can say is that if there is something that the government need to take a serious care about is mental health, because sometimes in Congo, health is based on a good care. I can say a good care is based on money. You can be neglected in the hospital just for the money. If you have money, you will be taken a good care. But if not, so the only thing I can say, they should also provide the health insurance, something like that. It will be more helpful for people, you see. And another thing, we pretend to put everything in God's responsibility, or without realizing that God has given us uh, the way that we can think and provide also the good solution to the other problems. So for the other stuff, we also need to provide a good solution by ourselves. So it will be more helpful if the government take really care of the mental health.
Yes. I want to add in. I want to echo what my friend just say about trauma and stuff like that. Yeah, mental health it's not only in let's say in Congo or in the US, or it's not all about white or black. Mental health is real, and like our community, as they say, we have some taboo. That's a real good. That's good. That's true, because if you go in like my tribe say, hey, you have a problem of mental health, they're gonna figure me. I mean, am I crazy? They're gonna ask you, am I crazy? So if we want to deal about this stuff like mental health, we have to be careful. Like changing the word, like those words like mental health. Try to look somewhere where we can be like soft. They can understand what we try to find out where we're trying to help them. So if we go like saying like you have a problem with mental health, you don't have you're going like crazy. No, they will not accept you. They will not welcome you in the community. So we have to be careful and try to figure out which language, which narrative we can go in the community and tell them.
These are all really important things to think about. And I'm going to encourage our other attendees to have some questions if they do. I wondered if most of you are affiliated with community organizations, and I wondered if you had a dream, like you had a dream for your organization for whatever it could do for the community, like something that maybe like completely a dream, impossible, it would take, you know, all the money that Elon Musk has or whoever. What would your dream be for your organization? In terms, you know, money is always important to make sure that we can do the programs that we need, but I'm thinking, what programs, what would you do if someone handed you $10 million? What would your organization do and work on for the community here? If that dream, what is your dream for your organization?
That's an interesting question when you say for the community here. Because if you just said a dream overall, I would have said Congolese people just
I don't think we can pay for peace in DRC right now, but let's just
that's
think about what we can do.
yeah. So you know that's why any Congolese you actually would say they just want peace, right? But yes, if we were to try to do something here in the Congolese community, I think the adults are should be helped and should be taken care of. But I feel like most adults that come here, they already have their set way of living, right? Like they have their church, they go to their church, they have their tribal leader that they consult when they need, you know, they have to make a decision and things like that. However, the people that we're going to deal with for a long time in the US are those young teenagers that are coming up, right?
Yeah,
And whether we like it or not, these are the people that we're gonna be working next to on the road, probably working together in some company. You know, these are the people that we're gonna be dealing with because the adults, believe it or not, they're really into their community and they don't bother stepping out of the community. But the young folks are very much going to be here, and we're gonna deal with them. And we can either take a proactive approach and try to mitigate some of the issue that we can anticipate because of their current situation, or we can take a passive approach and just let it play out, which I think is going to be a very bad solution. So in that sense, if there was something that could be done, I would say if I had millions of dollars, like you mentioned, to put into the community, I would really emphasize on focusing on the younger folks that are here and helping, whether it's boys or girls, just helping them navigate life in the US so that they can become productive member of the society. Because if somebody have, you know, a decent education, can have a decent job, chances of them going out to commit a crime kind of decrease because, you know, they have other incentives. But if they don't have other incentives, as we are seeing, because the parents are not educated, so they're not placing emphasis on the kids to get educated, which leads the kids to do the small jobs like in the factories and things like that, which is, you know, it's not necessarily small jobs, but jobs that, you know, 5-10 years from now, they might not be able to rely on those jobs to provide for their family. So what does that leave them to do, right? So maybe we can really place emphasis on that aspect. I'm going to keep emphasizing on that because I think that's my passion in you know, helping my community. Yes, if I have money, I would definitely place it on helping out the young Congolese people so they can go to college and become a productive member of the society.
I am with you, my brother Jerez, because that's my passion to uplift the education of our youth here in this country, not only here in America, even in Europe, all our young ones who are in different countries, to make sure that we have more educated young Congolese who are the future of our nation. So without an education, as you said, there's a chance of this crisis to continue, but a well-educated young girl or young boy, they will be a critical thinker before they do something. So I am together with you for education. I will every time to invest in education. Yeah.
I think me too, as you say, education is important. Yes, because we all know that education is just like high school or 2-year college is for free for government. For me, maybe I can like a mentorship, a program mentorship for those who not like going to school. You know, some drop school and they need jobs, so I can do some program like mentorship to train them like entrepreneurship, uh, to be able to train them how they can find a job, to give them program that can be self-sufficient on themselves. So that's what I can invest in, like entrepreneurship or finance management, stuff like that?
Yes, if I can say something in this, I will be on my brother's side. Because even if you provide a good schooling, I don't think if someone doesn't eat something, he will have that courage to go to school. So, according to me, I think if I have that a lot of, that amount of money, I will more investing in. I think in creating more company, creating more jobs for the young people. Then after creating the job, it will also help them to go to school because in Africa, you need to pay for school. Even everywhere, you need to go for that to pay for that school. So it will be also so important to create more company, to create more jobs. Then it's gonna be helpful for the young people to achieve their dreams. Thank you.
Do we have just a few more minutes if we have any brave attendees that would like to ask a question? I do know personally that some of you have been able to go back to your home country and spend time there. So Watema got to go back. I wondered if you all had any stories to tell or share about heading back to DRC and your hopes and dreams for your country. So although I'm very glad that you're here and I want you to stay here and be a part of my country and my community, I know that your heart is probably still very torn and belongs to Congo and to Africa. So I wondered if you all had any final words for the global community or for the United States or for your country about your hopes and dreams for the DRC.
Yeah, I think my heart is in Congo, as you said. So, and I will encourage my fellow Congolese here. We have to go back home. The country needs us. If you go back home, you can cry. You see how the infrastructure, the social services is poor. So for me, being in the US, it's like one drop in a big ocean. So if I go back home, I think I can contribute what I have and try to help my community, like leadership, social services. That is only my side I have in the future. And for the world community, I think Congo need peace, and the peace I think is based on these big institutions. They don't like Congo to be in peace. I don't know why, but we need to contribute. We need them to come and help Congo to get peace.
I can go if nobody else wants to go. I can
will,
go quickly.
okay, after you.
No worries. So for my side, I think that, Africa has a very young population, right? And the population size is growing and it keeps growing. Likewise, the Congolese population, the majority of the Congolese population, I think, is more than 70% is considered young population. So being in the Congo, after traveling in the Congo, like you can really feel it. You can sense the vibrancy of the youthness in the Congolese population. However, I don't think that our leaders back home do a good job of organizing those young people. And so, if there was something that I could do, that I'm trying to do, is place emphasis on how to connect the brains that are outside of the country and those of the young people that are back home. What I envision would be probably a program that those that are outside of the country are able to teach the young people that are back home, either virtually or otherwise. So this is something that I've been thinking through, and if there's something I can do, I think that would be a lot more helpful. Like my brother mentioned earlier, education is quote unquote free, but yeah, it's quote unquote free. So we the kind of education that you get for free, I'm not sure if that's necessarily what's going to help, you know, curve a lot of the challenges. And the young population, the vast majority of those young population are actually women. And I feel like if they are educated, if they are well equipped, then we can have a better population sample to deal with in the future. If not, then yeah, we're going to be dealing with a lot of challenges, in years to come.
Let's give our women the last word. So Dr. Gray, why don't you close us out with your final words of wisdom?
Yeah, number one, I'm so honored to be on this platform together with my brothers, and I hope we will meet again. Secondly, I believe, as I've been sharing, education is what number one passion that actually when I came here, I had to go back to school to do my master's and my PhD, so I did not sit down. So my hope is that my fellow community who are here, young ones especially, to continue with their education, and also those who have also education to also help those who are still in need of education by helping those in the country, providing scholarship. One of the things that we have been doing in African Girls Hope Foundation, we have created an opportunity to help one girl at a time in Congo by providing scholarships. We provide scholarship in universities, elementary, and also in high school. So I encourage all of us to also give back, as we are also here helping our community around here. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for your time today. We just ran over a couple minutes, but I always consider it a massive success when I've learned something. And I learned a lot today from you all. So thank you so much for being willing to share personal stories and your wisdom and your experience with us. We thank you. Know that you are always welcome in my community. And it was a true honor to have all of you here and help us teach other people how to be better at welcome for people who are arriving from places around the world where people are truly suffering. And it's wonderful to share this time with you all and to see your great success. And as always, please let the Georgia State University Prevention Research Center know how we can help you in your organizations, because that's why we're here. So thank you all so much and have a great afternoon.
Thank you
very much.